Today we're going to make a simple JavaScript clock, and in order to do this, it's going to eventually end up in a PHP file, but we're going to begin in an HTML file, which can be run right off of a local drive C or A or B, whatever USB your drive letter is. And I just want to point out that when you have a number less than 10 for minutes, this is 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the evening. I haven't been clear on that. But if it's less than 10, we wouldn't want to put 8:7. We'd want to have 8:07. So we just want to make sure we understand that that's exactly what we're doing here. Now, when it comes to scripts, we have a script to load inside the head. So we have script to /script inside the head. That's where the functions are going to reside. And then a script in the body, script to /script, is going to be where the functions are executed. So let's begin. First thing I want to do is create a little paragraph, ID equals clock, and it just says this is a clock. So that's all that little object does right there, that little HTML element, a paragraph. Its ID is clock. That's important to recognize. Now, the script down below is going to say clock start, because that's what it's going to do. So let's take a look at the function clock start. First thing I'm going to do is get a new date. Okay, date with a capital D is a JavaScript pre-made object, and so we have a variable called D that's going to take that instance. And I can get the hours and the minutes. Those are pre-made methods of the date object, so we have H and M there. Now, if M is less than 10, then we're going to add a 0 to that M, kind of like I was just talking about. And the time is going to be hours, which we're not adding a 0, so 8 o'clock in the morning we wouldn't put 08, we would just leave it at 8, colon, and the minutes, which may or may not have a 0 in it. And then document.getElementById clock, we refer to that down here as the clock element. Inner HTML, that means anything in between this little greater than symbol there and that little less than symbol there, that's the middle. It's going to equal the time. So it's going to take whatever the time is, that's the variable I created here, and it's going to put it right in that spot right there. That's the clock start. So now we have a clock. Now let's take a look at this function called new minute, which we haven't called yet, but variable current time equals document.getElementById clock inner HTML. So it's going to take that. That's no longer going to say this is a clock. New minute is going to say whatever's in there, which is going to be the 8:07 or whatever time it is. And it's going to split that. Oh, this is interesting. It's going to create an array called timer that takes the current time and splits it based on the colon. And then H being parse int of the timer 0, so the first element of the timer array, M being the timer 1, the second element of the array, it's going to parse that in. So it's going to get the integer values of H and M, hour and minute. That will be without the leading zeros. At that point, new minute, of course, adds 1 to the minute. No problem there. We'd be all set except for what if we're greater than 59. If M is greater than 59, we know that minute needs to go to 00 and hour needs to be +1. So H++. But of course, if H is greater than 23, then we're going to set hour back to 00. In that case, I did put 00 for the first hour of the day, because we're actually looking at military time in this case. Now, there are some other examples where hour could equal 0. If at the beginning that's what it was equal to, then it still remains at 0, so I want to put a 00. Just on the midnight hour, I want to have a double 0. Now, if minute is less than 10, and if minute is greater than 0, then we're going to add a 0 to whatever minute is. So, because it could have been 6, and we added 1 over here to make it 7, and so we want to have the 0 put there at that point in time. and then variable the time equals the hour colon the minutes, and document get element by ID clock inner HTML equals the time. So again, it's going to take that time and put it right there, whatever's in the clock element, which is the paragraph. But new minute is not actually called. Clock start is called right here on line 32, but new minute isn't called. So what we're going to do is inside that script, when it loads that script, we're also going to add this set interval new minute, comma, 60,000. 60,000 milliseconds is actually 60 seconds. So 60 seconds after this page loads, it's going to call the new minute function. Meanwhile, it'll have already called the clock start function once, and only once on clock start. New minute, every 60 seconds, it's going to call new minute again and again and again and make those changes. And that's how it's going to work.